So yeah, so we're gonna start off the second chunk of exercises and pieces of work with an initiation exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. Take us through it. I mean,
Take us through the idea.
yeah, take
Mm-hmm.
us through the idea.
Okay, so this is a way to help start linking, which we said we were going to do before, between the throat chakra, right, and the third eye. So how to let one that we've been working on initiate the other, right? So we're linking the two together and sort of making a sympathetic bond between them, right? So that when we start stimulating one, the other one will come online as well. So, and, you know, so let's think of it this way as, initiating that link. And so it's always there, obviously, but now we're just going to make it stronger so that, we're actually benefiting from the strength of one, which we've been building up over the last few weeks, right? And then we're using that to sort of springboard, into utilizing that, the third eye, basically. So, and let's just say again, I mean, it's not the only energetic organ that's used for seeing, right? But it's the one that's primary. Let's put it that way. So the other thing is, let's just clarify, like, where is it on each person? There's a range, right? So it's not like exactly everybody's isn't exactly the same place, right? There's a bit of a range. So figure, basically about the size of a silver dollar, or something like that, as far as a range goes. So anywhere from like directly, like between the eyebrows, if we want to think of that, and then all the way up, sort of like there's the bit of a divot here, right, in your forehead, and it's like in that territory. Usually we think of it as being more like a tunnel that goes from that place all the way back to the visual cortex in the back of the head. So the occiput, someplace where that little bit of a bony protuberance is there in the back of the head. That's pretty much the connection point between those two places, right? And of course the visual cortex, it makes sense, right, where that would be going through, and it sort of goes right through the center of the brain, if you want to think of it that way. So like, pituitary gland, pineal gland, and a lot of people will say that the pineal gland is the third eye. The third eye is an energetic organ, right? It's not something that's a physical organ. So it's in line with that. It's also in line with the pituitary gland. It's also in line with a number of other structures in the brain that channel goes through. And of course that channel can be smaller, it can be larger. The aperture of that again is larger or smaller, and connects with the main channel that runs through your spine and out through the top of your head and goes down to the ground, right? And connects you with the earth. It makes you this conduit that's walking around between the energy in the heavens and the energy in the earth itself. So we're just this conduit that's a mix or a blend within us, of those two basic properties, right? So the third eye is, more like a tunnel. And so, and even though most people sort of coordinate that with seeing or other things like that, right? It's not, coming back to the beginning, it's not like in an exact physical location. It's a general location of here, okay? So it's not, if somebody says it's exactly here, it's not exactly here. Maybe the epicenter is here for you, but it might be a little bit lower for somebody else. Heads are different, just like everything else on us, right? So it's slightly up or down or side to side a little bit, but generally it's in that area. So I wouldn't get too bound up by trying to find the exact location of your third eye. You'll feel it as we go through this. You're gonna sense it and feel it. Okay?
What does it actually look like when you can see it? Like when you see it on somebody?
It looks like any other chakra. It looks like a sphere. It's like, it's not just in that location. You can see it all the way around on, like, let's say, there's this latitude that goes around that level of the physical body, right? And from every place on that, you can see it. So it's, if you're looking at somebody from the side, you see their third eye here. It's like third eye represents like a level around that person. So it's like if I'm seeing somebody, let's say the solar plexus or whatever, the chakra that's there, then if I see him from the lateral view or even from the back, I still see the sphere. You know, it's emanating out brighter than the rest of the territory of the body. And it's like, if you were looking at it in a two-dimensional plane or from a picture, that's why it looks like a, you know, chakra means wheel, right? So, but it's not really a wheel. It's not like a two-dimensional, you know, it's not a flat plane. It's a sphere. It's a sphere. So any place that I look around it, it's going to have that look of a sphere. And it's going to have that sort of dimensionality to it, you know, which makes sense, really, when you sort of ponder it. It makes sense. Why would it only come out the front, or why would it only be, you know, it's like, it's just a place where we can locate it. Because
it's interesting, because I always, for whatever reason, thought of it like a funnel, like it was,
yeah,
like coming a funnel out the front.
I could see where that might, you know, where people could think of it that way, for sure.
Right,
you know?
but when you see it, it's a sphere.
Yeah, I mean, but I could see, like let's say if you're, like in the beginning, when you first start to see, you might see it as being represented that way. And then as it gets more refined and you get more precise with it, it becomes this spherical, you know, type of energy ball or whatever you want to call it, you know.
Sure.
It's sort of like when people talk about the hara area, you know, it's like hara, hara, hara. And it's like, you know, but why is it there's so much ado about that, right? It's just, it's really because, you know, like in Tibet, they break that into 3. But like in India, it's more like it's one big area, because, you know, those 3 chakras combined together makes a very big glow. So again, as your seeing gets more precise, you'll see that that's broken into 3 separate territories. And so, but they're, you know, they're all spherical. They don't have those little symbols floating in them either. You know? Just
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, just thought I'd put that in there, you know. I was really surprised. I was like, where's the symbol? I'm broken. Who stole them? Okay. So, if you can't laugh at this stuff, you know, you just got to go back home. And go away. True. Go away. You know, it's just, there's no room for, you know, I mean, there are things that we need to do. We have to be a little bit stoic about things. You know, it's not always easy. Get up in the middle of the night to do a practice or to do these or that or the other thing. But it's like, you know, for God's sake, you know, it's like, lighten up. You know, it's like, you know, you're not going to, you know, if you make fun of something, especially yourself, you're not going to go to hell for that, right? It's not happening. You know, hate to, you know, put that out there, or not put it out there, you know, too. And I'm sure other people have different ideas about that, but I've never found that my levity about this stuff has ever been a detriment to my ability to do it. It may be a detriment for me interacting with people sometimes that take themselves too seriously, but it's never been a detriment to my ability to do it. It's not like something has shut off the sluice because I was too cheeky about it. You know, it's just not happening.
Right.
So I have to go with my own experience in that way. You know, it's like, if we take, I mean, there's plenty of this stuff to be awed about, and you know, and for lack of a better term, it is very mystical, and it is very, like, we just don't know where some of this stuff, and we've only scratched the surface, you know. And so, you know, why make it more of that? Why make it more complex? Why put more barriers on it to make it so sacred that we can't talk about it, we can't joke about it, we can't do this, we can't have differing opinions about it? You know, it's like, God, you know, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. If you really want to do this, if people are evolved enough to really want to do this and really make it, you know, better for themselves and to use it in their lives. I mean, I find it almost funny in a way, you know, sad but funny, you know, that people that take this stuff so seriously, that it's, you know, that they have all these, they've made up all these rules for themselves. they're just putting shackles on themselves, for lack of a better way of thinking about it. Seriously, I mean, it's sort of like, oh, I've learned to do this very mystical stuff, but I would never use it for my own gain, or I would never use it for, whatever, to make my life better. Why? Why? It's like, what do you think its purpose is? How do you think you're going to evolve further? It's like if you're, it's like being very well educated and, living in a ditch someplace. How is that making your life better? It's like, no, you go out and you get a good job and you work in an industry that you can feel proud of and that you're satisfied with and that you're helping other people with. It's like whatever that is, and is making your life better. It's like, what's the purpose of of this stuff? It's the same. It's like, to be evolved means to make your life better, not to just, have this little secret hobby that you have on the side. And, I'm all mystical in the weekends, but in the work week, I'm just slugging it out with everybody else. And it's like, what's the point? So, it has to be integrated and to build your life better. Otherwise, I don't really think that there's much of a point to it, to be honest with you. So, well, let me step down off the soapbox now, and we'll get back to this, initiation.
It's good when you're up there.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's comical anyway. So, so with this, it's just a way to, one that we've been accelerating and building up for a few weeks now, and then how to, again, utilize that as a key to open this and make it a little more accessible to us. So we springboard from the feelings of one to build up the feelings of the second, okay? And so when we link those together, it's like we're utilizing that. It's like, this is what this feels like. How would that feel when it's there? Oh, okay, now I have a little starting point. If I say, open your third eye, it's like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
So it's like...
Or even like vibrate or stimulate your third eye.
You don't know.
It's like, how the hell do you do that?
How do you do that?
But if you can generate a vibration...
And make the correlation between one and the other one, and there's actually, an energetic link between them, then it makes it much easier to do that. And so that's a clue for the other chakras as well, right? So, if you really want to delve into it, once you kind of have this under your belt, then, there's a way to do that, using that key to open the others as well.
Okay.
So, which we're not going to go into today because we're talking about seeing. So, we're going with this. So when I do that, so I start out with just the buzzing, like we've already done. And again, position-wise, I can either be sitting in a chair, and again, very straight back and straight neck. And again, like I'm being held like a marionette, right? So it's like you're being held by a cord, and it's like your physical body is almost like a suit of clothes. It's hanging on a hanger, so I have to feel like that very relaxed hanger. Nothing tight on. So like if you have tight belt, loosen the belt, and you can even take your shoes off or whatever. You want to be very relaxed and nothing, binding you in any way. And so, but straight back. And if somebody needs to do it, they can do it lying on the floor, right? So just, put a yoga mat down or something where you're going to be comfortable lying there for a little bit of time, right? So, and that's perfectly acceptable to do this there. You don't have to be sitting up. I just tend to do most things sitting up. So, okay, so I'm doing that. So my eyes are closed through this whole exercise, all the stages. And because I'm, taking out some of this stimulus so that I can focus on the ones that I am stimulating, the places that I want to be able to put my awareness, right? And it doesn't have to be, there's no visualization to, help you along with this. I mean, you want to you don't have to visualize anything. You don't want to grasp at stuff. It's like when you start grasping at it, it's sort of like trying to grab smoke. You're just going to be putting more force in there, and that's going to make it just sort of elude you. And so it's just let it open up on its own, sort of just be observant. And observant doesn't mean like, oh, I'm concentrating to see what's happening. No, that's grasping, that's grabbing, right? Being observant is literally just letting it unfold in front of you. Just letting it unfold in that area. Bringing your awareness to it is just observation. You're not going to be able to interact with it. You're not going to be able to influence it in any way. In fact, even trying to influence is going to make it elude you, right? It's literally this very sort of impassive observation of watching what happens. It's so important, such a fine trait to develop over time, and you'll get really, really good at it, and it will help you in all kinds of things in your life. But to be able to do it with this stuff that's so subtle is one of those little tips that's, a lot of times left out. It's like people will say observe, but if I'm observing, am I observing with the binoculars, watching for that small little yellow bird somewhere, or like I'm when I think of all the ways that I could think about the word observe, a lot of them are I'm doing something, and in this case it's a very impassive observation. I'm not interacting with that in any way. I'm not trying to influence in any way. Just in the act of observing it, we're going to change it, like we know in physics and quantum physics, right? But it literally is no more than that. I'm just observing and trying to get a feel for it. That's it. So those are my little tips, because
so important.
Yep, that'll help with all of these things.
I don't know about everybody else, but I cannot hear that kind of stuff enough.
Yeah.
It makes it so much better to get those little nuances.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. So I'm starting out with my posture in a good way, and I'm closing my eyes. And there are ways to enhance this if you want. I mean, you can be in a little bit of a darker room, sure, and then you could also, but you could put candles around the room too. It's like not for not for ambiance, but it's just again candlelight. When we have that lower type of light, it'll be a little easier if you get to the point where you're starting to see lights in your mind in that area of the third eye. Then it'll be a little bit easier to discern if the lights are, if you're just in a fluorescent blown out room, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to make that, to see the subtleness of it, because it is very subtle in the beginning, and once we focus on it, it brings it up, but basically, it's subtle in the beginning, so you want to be able to catch that. So I tend to do it in a little bit darker room. I might have a few candles around or something like that. And that's fine. Whatever makes you comfortable as far as that goes. But if you don't have candles or you can't use candles, then I would just use a dim lamp or something like that. But even in a little bit darker room, it's okay. That's perfectly fine. A night light would be fine. It's like it doesn't matter. So again, I'm sitting there and my eyes are closed, and I start my buzzing, my humming buzz, right? So, and I might do that for 3 to 5 minutes. It's basically like a warm-up, if you want to, again, the way we talked about it before. It's like a warm-up, it's a toning, it's all of that for that chakra. And I'm just putting my awareness down there, right? It's not like I'm trying to increase it or do anything else. I'm just literally keeping my awareness there. It doesn't mean visualizing it from the inside. There's no visualization in this. It's literally just, my awareness, instead of it being wherever it normally is for you. Most people, it's in their head somewhere. Once I close my eyes, it's just kind of, my awareness is around in my head, and then I'm just bringing my awareness down. So it's basically like I'm looking out from like this point, not technically looking out, right? It's just like I'm bringing my awareness, looking for sensations in this territory.
Right. Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. And so I'm doing the buzzing, right? So I'm just, the buzzing helps me to, keep my awareness linked to this territory. Basically, that's all it is. And so, we can say it's a focus, but I tend to think of focus as being a little bit more pinpoint, right? So awareness is like, I'm there, but it's a little more amorphous, right? I'm just sort of like in that vicinity.
Yeah, I keep bringing my awareness back to the sensations that I have right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And every time I drift, I just gently bring it back.
Exactly.
Again.
Or if you feel like, I mean, because this can happen, right? I mean, anybody who's done the buzzing or the humming, they might have sensed after doing it for a while and they get pretty good at it. And maybe even, it's just sort of like a exercise that they do. They enjoy it. It makes them feel better, which is really, it can have that effect. But you might notice, like, as I bring my awareness here, like you notice there's a buzzing somewhere else in your body. It's like, it's okay. Just, like you acknowledge it and you let it go, right? You bring your awareness back to here. So it's just sort of like this very gentle, like, oh, my leg kind of feels buzzy. And then it's like, oh, and then it's just like, okay. And I let it go. I'm not focusing on it. I'm bringing it back to this place again. So I'm always just sort of gently bring it back. After a while, it'll just stay wherever, we're training our awareness to stay where we want it to stay. All of these things have multiple functions when we do that, right? So I do the buzzing, and after about 3 to 5 minutes, then I'm going to go into the wind breathing, right? So I'm doing the wind breathing, and that's, open again, like the sound of the wind, again, in this territory, right? It's not too high in the mouth, or it's not a high pitch, it's a lower pitch. So like, now, I know that might be a little bit harder to hear on there, but that's why we put that audio file on the site, right? So that people could hear a little more expanded version of that wind breathing. Just not that you're trying to match that, just so that you can get an idea of what it sounds like. But as long as it's low in the throat and it's a lower pitch, that's pretty much what you want to do. But it's just like, if you have trouble with it, just imagine yourself. And this is how I started doing it. Imagine myself standing next to the woods or in the woods someplace and hearing the wind move through the trees. What is that sound that the wind makes as it moves through vegetation or over, a grassy plain or whatever? It's like, I tend to think of it in the forest because there's larger structures there, and the wind takes a deeper tone in those structures than it would against, like, let's say, my field when it's covered in tall grass or whatever. It's like there's that little high-pitched rattling that happens, and that's not what I'm looking for at this point. I'm looking for that really just low, solid tone back and forth. So I'm going to do that and just keep my awareness here, right? So again, 3 to 5 minutes, right? So, and then the very next stage after that is I'm going to continue with this breathing, and the wind breathing continues through the whole next several sections, right? So I'm just going to keep that up, and then, so we might want to put it on a little timer or whatever, although we're going to have a guided meditation doing this, right? So I'm going to guide you through it, and the timing will be right. But when you're doing it on your own, I mean, you could do something where it's like seconds, right? Where it's like a lapse timer where it just dings, and in 5 minutes it dings again one time, and you can switch it up if you want to do that.
And for anybody that doesn't know, that's an app that you can download.
That's an app, right?
It's called Seconds.
Right.
Yeah, so we use that. It's pretty cool.
Yep, it works well. So, and so I'm breathing like that continuously. And then, so once I've done the 3 to 5 minutes here, the next stage, I'm going to bring my awareness to that third eye area, right? And so I'm still wind breathing, but I'm just bringing my attention to this third eye area. And so I'm not concerned with my awareness down here now. I'm only concerned with my awareness up here. I'm just trying to be observant and just notice anything that's there. Don't try to force it. And I've seen some courses where they say like, oh, you've got to use behind your eyelids, you've got to look at the third eye, with your eyeballs, like, you'll get headache. It doesn't work. Okay. You don't need to do that. It's like literally you're not trying to force anything. And that's just one more way to force it. Is staring at it, trying to get it to turn on or whatever it is. Remember, it's already on. You're just trying to feel it out, let it unfold, let it open a little bit more. So I'm still doing the wind breathing, and I bring my awareness to this area, 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. Okay. And so once that's done, and I'm still wind breathing. I know this is repetitive, but I just want to make sure that all the bases are covered. I'm taking if you're right-handed, you're going to take your right hand. If you're left-handed, you're going to take your left hand. So the center, of your palm basically here, it's sort of like if I made a loose fist, it's where the ring finger would touch, so that's basically there. It doesn't have to be that exact. I'm just giving you the description. And so I'm just putting my palm in front of my third eye. My eyes are still closed. I'm still breathing. I'm just raising it gently if I'm on the floor, if I'm in my chair, and nothing's crossed, obviously. So I'm just here, and I just lift it up and bring it here. And it's probably anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches away from your forehead. You don't want to touch your forehead. It's just there, right? And I'm still holding my awareness in the third eye. That's it. Still breathing, still awareness in the third eye only, and just my palm in front of that. And as relaxed as you can be. Don't tense up like this. Just relax and just hold it there, whatever. And breathe again for 3 to 5 minutes while you're doing that, holding your awareness there. You'll probably feel warmth, or, if you feel like a tingling or a sensation there. It could be like a pressure. Sometimes there's like a tapping pulse, or, a feeling of density, or even a swelling there, that type of thing. Just acknowledge it and let it go. Just keep your awareness in that place. And so, and the breathing is continuing. So 3 to 5 minutes like this. Then I can just drop my hand, still breathing, and I'm holding my awareness. Now it's in the third eye, but now I'm going to link it to this, right? So I'm thinking of the vibration between this and this. So I'm holding my awareness in both places at once. And the way that I do that, besides, just what I said, first flush, right, is like, okay, I'm aware of this vibration, and I'm aware of this vibration or sensation of some sort here. It could be a tingling, buzzing, any of those other things that we talked about, pressure, or maybe even a tapping or pulsing. It's all fine. And I'm aware of both at the same time, right? So what I'm doing, I'm just being aware of that, but basically I'm trying to link in my mind that the vibration here is stimulating the vibration here. I'm thinking of the two being at the same time. So like if I were to give, maybe some kind of analogy, description, it would be like, if my two knees were, or let's do it up here so you could see it. So like if I was thinking, okay, if I push on this and my awareness is here, and there's that contact point there, I'm aware of the sensation that's here. And then, I'm aware of the sensation that's here if I push on the other side. And so I can shift my awareness back and forth. But it's almost like when I try to keep it on both, it's like I can feel the sensation on both sides at the same time. It's not difficult to do, right? It's not like I have this bar that's across me. It's literally like I'm just feeling both things at the same time. But it's almost like if this was the original stimulating part, if I were stimulating that more, it's like I'm linking that stimulation to this being stimulated too. So it's like the more that I do this, it's like it feels as if it's happening here as well. I mean, there are other people that utilize this, right? With like magicians, you've seen them do this with like shadows and things like that, right? Where they stimulate somebody, behind their back on one area, and they feel it on their shoulder as if they were tapping them on their shoulder. That type of sympathetic link that goes between them, right? Huh. So it's here and here. So I'm still only breathing here, but I'm keeping my awareness in both. And I feel like as this vibration is feeling a little bit stronger or more stimulated, I feel that there's a link it's stimulating this to become more too. So I'm really making the association that the more this is vibrating, it's building this up. I'm feeling the stimulation more and more, right? And so I'm holding the awareness 3 to 5 minutes, and then after that, I'm stopping the wind breathing, right? And I'm sorry. Then after that, I'm just again shifting back up and only thinking about this. But the wind breathing, although I'm not aware of my throat area, I'm only putting my awareness here. But the wind breathing is stimulating that more and more. So, and again, I'm letting it unfold. I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to push it. You know, well, if I breathe harder, I'll make this stimulate more. No, it's like just keep it very steady, and I'm back to this.
And this is again where that thing that you mentioned when we first introduced the wind breathing about your jaw being relaxed becomes really important, right?
Yeah, because you know that's one of those places that you'll tense up, and it actually blocks that. You know, blocks that system between there. It'll block anything from going up here. So in a way, not exactly, but that's the idea. So you want to keep this very relaxed. This has a lot of benefits to do, and that's why we always keep our mouth a little bit open when we're doing the wind breathing, right? So I mean, you can breathe through your nose at the same time, nose and mouth, and that's fine. But the mouth is slightly ajar so that it's relaxed, and that's going to help this vibrate a lot better. So again, then just here, still wind breathing and just focusing on this, or the awareness on that, and then I just stop the breathing altogether, but I'm still focusing on that. And as I do that, and I'm just, you know, I'm trying not to move at all at that point, right? So I'm staying as still as possible, and just, you know, breathing normally, and only keeping my awareness in that point. And at that point, you may notice, again, from an observation, don't try to push anything, from an observation only, you know, if my awareness is in that third eye, then you may notice at that point that sensation is still there. It might be a little bit reduced, but it's still there. And you may notice at that point that there are, you know, there's some type of luminosity behind your, you know, in that third eye area. Like you're sensing it there, right? You're not trying to look at it. You're not trying to do anything with your eyeballs particularly. It's just that your awareness is there, and you start to see it. Could be like a luminous fog. It could be a color, you know, could be a number of colors. And it could be like what they would always call sparks, but basically it's like, you know, everybody's seen like a colorful flash or whatever, you know, again, out of the corner of their eye or something like that. It's like those things sort of come through, or potentially can come through. If you don't see it, it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. We just need to do more work on it. But basically, you know, a vast majority of people do have some sensation like that. And just observe that again for, you know, that could be for 5 to 10 minutes, just staying as still as possible. Don't move around, you know, you know, just keep your awareness there with normal breathing, and just observe, you know, anything that shows up for you, the colors. Be aware of, you know, anything that's, you know, that you sense around you as well. It may be a little bit spacey because you've been doing this for a while now and eyes closed, right? So, and again, this stimulates more than just this. So, you know, that can sort of, it'll change your field, your sphere of sensation around you. So you'll be more sensitive at that point, and that's the point, right? So you're going to be able to see this somewhere in this vicinity. So I'm looking behind, or not even looking behind, just being aware of that behind my third eye, and you know, any little colors, anything that comes up, any luminosity or brightness or light. When you're done, you're just going to write that down. See, you know, make a note of it. And you know, and usually if I come out of it, even before I write anything down, you know, I'm saying, you know, when I get my goal, my end result, I'm saying yes, more just like that, right? Connecting that feedback loop and letting myself know that, you know, you achieved the goal, great, more like that. You know, you're telling your subconscious, this is exactly what I was looking for, and, you know, we're going to increase it and make it better. And that's it. That's the whole practice, basically. It's, you know, again, I would probably, once I open my eyes, give yourself a few seconds to sort of equilibrate and come back into the room and all of that, and don't just jump up and run out. You'll probably fall down. So,
okay. And this is the kind of thing that will, obviously we can do after watching the video and use the guided meditation to have you walk us through it, because there was a lot of stages there.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, they're relatively
The
easy to
same.
perform and
Right.
very similar, it's like,
Yep.
okay, which one first? And so
Right.
that'll be
Right, right,
helpful.
right, right,
But
right.
but is it something that you would have us do like on a regular basis, or is it something that you just kind of do here and there? Or, I mean, as we're going through the
I
course?
think initially you can do it. It's one that you don't do very often. I mean, you can do it a little more often in the beginning, but you don't have to. Excuse me. It's not one that you have to keep up with. I mean, we're going to go through the wind breathing for a lot of things, so it's not like, you know. But this particular, you know, exercise isn't something that we do on a lot, you know, like regular basis. You know, once you sort of get past this point, you're not going to have to go back to it.
Okay.
You're going to progress past this point.
Okay.
This is more like, you know, initiation, meaning, you know, you're starting it, it's the start off, and then we're going to compound it with other things that are going to create a better, you know, better results.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's it.
Cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you need to do it a few times, it's okay.
Okay.
But I think once you get past that and we start doing other things, it's not going to be necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Get to it.
Get to it. That's right.